Hello and welcome to D-SETI. This is a presentation that puts forward the hypothesis that geometry within the non-human intelligence or unidentified aerial phenomena contact experience suggests intelligent and intentional communication. So we'll cover a bit about what SETI is, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, what METI is, the messaging of extraterrestrial intelligence, and we'll call out that symmetry, bisection, and the golden ratio as presented within scopes of perception appropriate to us indicate intelligent and intentional communication like we might send to our neighbors in the sky. And so we'll cover a couple phenomena that have this geometry present within it. The dots in a line phenomena, which I myself am an experiencer of, and I've sort of identified, hey, this is actually a phenomena. There's several other people who experience something very similar. And is something like an abduction mark, actually. Typically, we understand marks on the body associated with NHI contact to be alien abduction marks, like they're scars from a medical procedure. I'm putting forward a completely different hypothesis here. And just keep that in mind. I know sometimes body marks and aliens are scary, but this is really not the case. This is expressive of beautiful geometry, albeit in a strange way. Then we'll cover the unidentified aerial phenomena. We'll look at three pretty well documented cases of UAP sightings, generally in the context, two of which are in the context of CE5, that's human initiated contact experiences. And then finally, we'll talk about implications. So to get started, I will bring us to the Wikipedia page on communications with extraterrestrial intelligence. I just wanted to call this out because this is actually a field of study. Scientists have convened together to discuss this and say, how would we actually communicate with extraterrestrial beings? And so if you scan this page or read the books about SETI and METI, you'll see that it's mostly about the universal languages of mathematics and how to communicate that. There's some examples in the past. So this is an example. This is the cover of the golden record we sent out in the Voyager space probe. So this is going out to space, and it has geometries within it. It has math in it. It has pictographic information. We've also sent out this message. This is the Arecibo message. This is broadcast through radio waves and encoded and decoded using a specific system, kind of an algorithmic system to place these. It should be obvious that the intention of it was obvious in this sort of self-building experience. So this is one example of messages we've sent out that are geometric in nature. One of the things that I found was really interesting in my research is this book called Communications with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. It's put out by SUNY Press. And one of the chapters, most of it's all about how do we message them? What are the radio signals? How might we communicate? And this chapter actually says, hey, let's actually think about what a universal cognitive map is. Universal cognitive map means how we think about the world. Like, is the way we think about space and time, is that universal? Is the way we think about how numbers work together, is that universal? And so there is a kind of consensus that math is the universal language. But here there is a bit of discussion about what type of math. And so in this chapter, the authors look at the implications of a kind of an alternative cognitive map to the traditional Western view. And so this cognitive map comes from the quantum physicist David Bohm, who dreamed the structure of the atom as he discovered it. So he used dreaming to discover the nature of the atom. And then he's a household name, so you know him. And so he talks about a cognitive map based on wholeness. And these authors express that perhaps the communication of wholeness through the universal language of mathematics may happen through the aesthetic dimension. So I'm just scanning through their paper here. So the aesthetic dimension within interstellar species communication. And so they're pointing out that symmetry, may be really essential, and golden ratio. So these are the two principles, mathematical principles, that they're saying, hey, this is expressive of a universal cognitive map that is based in wholeness, that seems to be inspired by a quantum physicist, right? The quantum physicist David Bohm, who I would say expresses a polyphasic understanding of the world, given that he looked to dreaming and is expressive of this wholeness cognitive map. So it's a different one than the traditional physical scientists. But this is important to understand because it explains why we might not have seen this signal before, is we weren't looking for it because our cognitive map was based in materialist science, not necessarily a holistic or integral science, let's say. And so these people are saying, all right, based on this holistic, polyphasic sort of wholeness view, what would it look like? And they're going, communication would involve symmetry, beauty, and that is expressive through the golden ratio. So this is really, really important. That's where we get to in their paper is golden ratio and symmetry. You need to know a little bit about the golden ratio. This is a relationship of magnitudes. So as A is to B, as A plus B is to A, as A is to B. So you see over here, we've got A and B, and then A plus B. They're all in the same relationship to each other. And I'll draw that out really shortly because we're getting into now the ruler and compass geometric construction. This is part of it. So in last winter solstice, I received a series of dreams that invited me to learn this and apply this ruler and compass method geometry to my own body mark, to other people's body marks, and then to different signals derived from CE5 experiences. And that's what I'm presenting on here. So I'm going to draw out the proof. So we're going to do a construction, and I'm going to say, hey, at the end of this, we will have a line divided in the golden ratio. And I'll show you what goes on. So I usually start by drawing a line, and I'm going to create a dot on that line right there. That's going to be the center of my circle, whose radius is whatever this is in my compass right now. So I do that, I draw a circle, I've got a line, I've got a dot. These are all coming from Euclid's postulates, right? So then I'm going to draw the vesica Pisces by moving the center of this circle over here, same radius. Then I'm going to draw a circle whose radius is 2 times the radius of the original circle. So here we have a principle of symmetry, right? Symmetry. And I've drawn that, and I'm going to connect this point of intersection with that point down here of intersection. And then, if I can find them, I will get my golden ratio calipers, which move backwards and forwards, to according to the golden ratio. So if I extend these out, they say, yes, indeed, this is in the golden ratio. I divided those lines appropriately. So that's the golden ratio. I want to talk a little bit about the experience and the phenomena that I had. So last summer solstice, I had this experience that produced 3 dots and then some more dots here, connected by this dot here. And right, I'll just cut to the chase, right? Like there you go, right? Oh, that's really interesting. And so that's the clue. It took me days and days and days to find that out. But after I did, I was able to build this ruler and compass construction. This is the geometric equivalent of the dot in a line that I received. And this has a regular interval set to golden ratio, reflected sort of symmetry, and then these little dots have a ratio that is determined by that golden section. So it's all sort of kind of beautifully weaving together, right? So It's a world of difference to have this on your body and not know what it means, and then have that go, oh, actually, that was a geometric communication. I actually think the dreams I had that night I received this mark are significant, meaningful, and relevant. Given the fact that this is not a phenomenon by itself, right? On its own. My thing isn't, I looked around, right? So I analyzed this one, same sort of situation, right? You see that construction I've got going on, right? It's right there. That's a clear example. Here's another clear example, right? So I get these photos from the internet, I print them out, I do the analysis on top of it, and I go, wow, actually, these are really, really geometric communications. Right? Here's another one that's kind of ambiguous. This is really interesting to me. This one, because it's a very clear communication. I still haven't cracked this code, but it comes from my hypnotist who worked with me on a missing time episode, and he received this mark within a week of my session. Right? It's with the same NHI. I explore that relationship with that NHI. And that same one is claiming responsibility for the dot and the line that I received. So I say some bigger phenomenon is happening here, is geometric in nature, as evidenced by all this geometry. All right, so those are dots in the line. You can check that out at Universal Language. I'm expressive. I'm the Universal Language video series will take you through that. I just need you to know where this geometry is coming from, because I'm seeing this geometry from marks on the body that came to me through dreams in the pulsation of UAPs, the footage of which you can get from the internet, you can analyze yourself, and you can see the same geometries. That's a demonstration, right? And so let's get into it. Here, let's get into, let me switch this around. Go to the screen. So this is the open source data visualization and analysis software I'm sharing. It's called ETolemy, after the ancient mathematician Ptolemy, Ptolemy. And it produces this. This, as you can recognize down here, are the ruler and compass constructions of the golden ratio. And this basically is that extended in a line forever. This comes from an analysis of a pulsing UAP, which I'll show you shortly. But I wanted to point out what I'm doing. And this is actually a visual demonstration of this geometry. I'll show you how as this video goes. So you can have this moment of, aha, I see the geometries in a pulsating UAP that followed an aircraft and didn't crash with it and didn't pose any harm, but pulsated in the beautiful, beautiful golden ratio, right? You can have that aha moment instead of looking at this footage and going, what does that mean? You can go, oh, this is golden ratio. This is symmetry. This means intentional, intelligent communication, right? Anyways, so what you need to know actually some of the phenomena. So this UAP comes from here, right? So I'm just going to fast forward this because, right, there should be, this is Rob Freeman's video, right here, flashing light, that's it. That's all I'm working with. He's got a 10 times X video, and I crop that, and I look right there, and I do computational analysis, frame by frame, what's going on. And right there, right, that's it. That's the beautiful golden ratio that we're talking about. This is incredible. He has 45 or almost 60 minutes of video, right? And I've analyzed 4.5 precise pulsations according to this geometric thing, right? So that's one of the phenomenon. And I think it's probably best just to jump into the analysis of that. So let's go back here with geometry. So here we've got what I started working on. I did the first 1,000 frames of this, and I frame by frame I said, is from a scale of like 1 to 10, how bright is the pulse? And so then I was able to measure this, and I was able to get intervals between them, and I was able to see patterns within them, right? Within strictly the intervals of the pulsations. And lo and behold, these formed something very similar, like it's somewhere between 32 and 34 frames, right? There's that pulsation. And I also use the construction methods that you're familiar with to do the golden section. And I applied the same colors here to there. And I also did math here. So that's really interesting. That gave me a kind of clue as to what's going on. So then I developed a system to hone in on the video, to extract data about it, and to output it into data. And I'll show you that data right now. This is the Monroe UAP. Excuse me, let's bring it here. This is the Monroe Institute data, right? So I now have 8,000 frames automatically analyzed. Let's just pull that up. 8,000 frames or so automatically analyzed to produce this pattern. As you can see, there's a regular intervals here and here. It's starting to make a lot of sense. There's a clear pulsation pattern and things like that. So I produced this data. I actually work with several different types of data from that one little bit. So here I've got, let's see. I've got the brightness data, I've got some valence data, and then I'm exploring how to get signal from that. So I have like 4 different ways of getting data from the same frame. This actually, I built this so I can print off 1,000 frame segments and tape them together into what I'll show you now are my scrolls. Right, so this is the Monroe Institute UAP scroll, right? I printed it all off to 6,500 frames, and then I start doing math on top of it, or geometric analysis. I'll give you a couple examples of the geometry before I understood it, right? So I worked on this. I go, oh, okay, this is sort of phi approximate. I know this is, I go 1, this is a half. I go, oh, these are actual ratios. And I know that because I counted all of them up, did the math, whatever, figured it out. And so I go, okay, what's going on with these ratios, right? So that was at this point. It took me a while to get to the scope where I could see this. And that was a lot of the work of analysis and things like that. But once they did, right, these become very, very clear and regular patterns. It's interesting, you can print these out, put them on top of each other from different segments of the same video, right, from frame, the first 1,000 frames, last 1,000 frames. You can match them up, and the interval pulses are perfect. So then I go, well, what does it look like actually to build this? And lo and behold, these are the circles. This is the construction. This is a different construction because I've reflected, this construction from the golden ratio, right? I've taken that and I've made symmetry. I've taken the golden ratio and I've expressed it symmetrically on this line to make that circle. That is all, those are all the points on the line I need to generate this figure, which is actually what you see in the demonstration. This figure shows how the relationships between the pulsations on this line, and it'll become very, very clear as we go on. So stay tuned, because we are now getting into, let's get into NARCAP report 20. And this is, let's go back to the screen. This is a pulsing orb. It's going like 600 miles per hour, following or flying next to an airplane. I love the commentary on this from the pilots. They're like, "What is this? This is awesome! I can tell Rita I've seen a platillo." which is like flying saucer, right? So they're really excited about it. They're not scared. This is a commercial airline. They're not crashing into it. This is not a danger, right? This, and I'll show you why, because this is aware of the aesthetic dimension of communication. Look at the pulsing, right? That looks like a focus, right? Focus, but I don't think it is, because I'll show you why. It's actually moving and pulsing, and you can hear that when you listen to the pilots. So this is what I was working on, and so I took that together. I extracted this and centered the video, and see, check this out. This is what it's doing, right? It's doing this multiple times. You might think it's in a loop, but it's not, right? Because it will the video starts over, the GIF starts over again with the frame numbers or some gap or something like that. So you'll see that. But this is what it's doing when it's flying around there. And so I'm wondering, well, what is it actually doing? And so let me show you, not that one, this one. This is the 3 different measures. This is the whole video, except for the part they look at the radar. This is the whole video that I can see from the NARCAP report. And this kind of looks jagged, right? So we need to go in, and I want to walk through what this data is, right? I'm going to just zoom in. Oh yeah, look at that, some more regularity, right? And then we'll get down to like something like that, right? Oh wow, look at those. Those are like regular pulses. And so I want to just walk through. We've got the brightness up here. This is the average brightness of the frame that's really cropped to the center. You saw what I'm analyzing in the GIF, right? We've got the valence here, which is a measure from the deepest dark to the lightest light. How big is that measurement? And then we've got the area of the white thing as compared to the dark thing. So I'm using Python's open source machine vision library to say, what is this and how big is it, right? And so we have those 3 measures coming out. Like I have before, I printed them off. I printed them off and I started doing math to them, right? So here's the thing printed off. I'm only using two pieces. I'm spot testing. How far are these intervals, these maximal pulses, right? Is this the same across the clip? Are they slowly drifting or expanding? But I counted them up between the maximum brightness of each pulse is about 32 frames. And so that gives me a sense of, even though it's doing weird stuff down here, right? Even though the area is getting big or strange, there's actually a regular pulse. So what is that pulse, you might ask? Well, it's here. It's here. And so, right, so let me see. Oop, upside down. Let's see, upside down. Let's get this right side up. Right, so now we've got the brightness here. It gets brighter, 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 kind of evens out, drops down. Brighter, bright, it evens out, drops down. So that's what it's doing. With the valence, you can see the same sort of pattern happening, except interestingly, there's a gap right here. That's carried down into the area. So this is telling me the area is really small, right? Area is really small, or valence is small, but the brightness is big there. So that's the peak brightness here. But oh, that's really interesting, isn't that? So here is like it's growing. It grows big, drops down in size, then then kind of stays that size, then gets small again. So that's what it's doing. That's the sort of motion that's happening. We need to figure out now, based on this understanding of geometry that they've given us, we start with unity. What is the unity ratio here? What is it, right? And so I go, well, it's probably, right, between pulses, right? The pink line to the pink line, right? That's what it measures. And it's like, yeah, that's probably the case. But and that's probably the case, right? So we can probably, this keep going sort of thing. That kind of thing we see is sort of like, yeah, it's kind of the same distance, right? And I'll get more into this because there's something weird that's happening in the grid system that I think is actually characteristic of the orb style pulsing. So the thing you need to know is when we look here, there's golden ratio, right? There's golden ratio between there and there. Let's go over here between those, there it is once again, right? Let's go at the end of this, which is 2000 frames in, right? Where is the golden ratio here? Well, let's find it. It's there again. And then lo and behold, it's actually nested again here, right? So we've got two golden ratios, two different orders of the golden ratio nested in each other within a regular pulsing interval pattern, right? How interesting is that? So that actually expresses something. This is interesting because if you actually do the math, I haven't found a as precise expression of this type of pattern as from the Monroe Institute, very precise. This one feels more like it's casual. It's like, hey, I'm here, but I'm not like clockwork, right? But regardless, this pattern repeats in all of these situations, right? And so I wanted to show you another thing at a different scale, right? So as you see, there's this is the same thing. I mean, it's just a few more. You know, as you can see, right, we've got the golden ratio being expressed, right? Let's see, there to there. We bring that up, right? Between these, right? That brings together the yellow and blue lines, right? Interestingly, right, you can see the circles I'm drawing from blue line to blue line, right? Circle, right? That means there's some sort of regular periodicity here, right? Blue line to blue line. It's not perfect in this, but then I also can go yellow line to yellow line. And so this is same, right? So we're seeing that this looks like a regular grid pattern, but somehow it's meshed together with a golden ratio interval patterning. So I find that to be fascinating. I haven't wrapped my mind around it, but this is actually characteristic of the three UAPs I've really explored. That is that's the NARCAP 20 report. That's from a like a commercial pilot interaction. So now at this point, right? So at this point in this journey, I go, oh, there's all this geometry coming from marks in the body. Right? I'm seeing it in radio waves, CE5 data. I'm seeing it in crop circles, and I go, and I said, you know what? I need to see if it's in UAPs. That's what I did, and so I found the Monroe Institute thing, and I'm like, oh my God, it's here, and I explored that, and I was like, there's definitely a signal here. I posted that 2 days ago. Someone was like, hey, you should check out this incident. Do you know of any other pulsing lights that have this pattern? And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm actually using this to explore, to validate a hypothesis around body marks, right? In dreams, body marks in dreams. And so I look at it and it's the same situation. We've got the same type of geometry that is expressive of symmetry, bisection, golden ratio, right? Those same characteristics of intelligent messages. These are the things we would put in a message to say, hey, we're here, right? This is here. So I go, okay, I had, this is just verification that the verification verified the thing that I already hypothesized. I mean, it's just at this point, I go, there's something here. We need to actually look at it and study it. It's not up for question if there is geometry here, because you can see it with your eyes and you can go, yes. You can print this stuff out and overlay it on the windows to go, this is congruent with a ruler and compass method construction. Therefore, it is a geometric communication. Therefore, it's not a natural kind of golden ratio expression like branches on an apple tree, right? They're not that perfect, actually. It's not like the heart rate thing, except this one feels more like that than the Monroe Institute, where there's all this variability. It's really actually stunning how precise it is. So this morning, after after like less than 24 hours after someone was like, why don't you check out some other pulsing lights, I found a third one, right, that is expressive of this geometry. And let me show you that. Go back to this screen. This is called, this is from Jimmy Blanchett. He's seeing the same geometries in other sources, right? So that's why I was like, let's go back to some of his old footage a few years ago, right? 2019. And you see this pulsing light, right? And you go, all right, let's see what it pulses like. So in alignment with my activities here, I've extracted it. I focused in on it, I centered in on it, and I got some numbers from it. And so let me show you that. Here's the GIF that I'm using. This isn't perfect, but it sort of centers it. It kind of gets confused when it's less bright, but the whole thing is actually in the frame, so I don't need it to be in the center. And I'll show you the graphs coming up. You'll be pretty impressed. But this is what I'm analyzing, right? So here it is. Right? This is very, very clear. So we've got the area up here. This is all the clips I've done. This is the area. We've got the kind of typical pulse patterns. This is visually similar to the Monroe Institute UAP. This is the signature pattern, apparently, of the 2 out of 3 UAPs, and it is resonant or harmonic with the third UAP I've analyzed in the last 24 hours, right? Isn't that fascinating? So we need to talk about this. This is the area of the dot, right? This is the area of the dot as it's pulsing in that cropped area. So we're looking at proportions, not raw size. Doesn't matter raw size. We're looking at the proportions, and look at those pulses. The brightness of the whole thing goes up, and look at those pulses. And then once again, I'm doing valence analysis because, as you can see right here in frame 351, right, there's some perturbation of the brightness, but there's a huge change in the valence, right? And that indicates a kind of a little pulse, actually. Here, when the area doesn't change, we see a little bit of brightness, but oh wow, look, the valence, that the brightness of that increases. So it's not just this, they can control the size of the pulse, the intensity, the brightness of the whole pulse, and the frequency of the highest brightness, let's say. So that these are all measures coming out that can help us understand that, lo and behold, there are specific pulsations in this data. And let me show you that here. So right, we've got this. That's what I just showed you. And then I printed it out in the scroll. It's only 2 pieces of paper here. And then I drew colored lines. So the pink, purple, whatever that is, it gets the highest pulse. The green one are the middle pulse, and the orange ones are the difficultly discerned ones, right? So now we've got an interesting thing. We can measure these distances with a compass, right? So here to there, to there, to there. I go, wow, that's actually pretty good. Let's try from, oh, yep, all of these lines sort of add up or are close enough. I don't know if it's geometrically approximate or precise here. I don't know. But I don't think it matters, because at this scale, they're better drawers than I am, to be honest. And so we've got that. The other quality here, and this is a very, very clean depiction of the signature pattern, right? Of this, at least as I'm seeing in those last couple. But given the fact that this geometry is being expressed through dreams and marks on the body, UAPs, radio signals, like let's say actually this is sort of a fingerprint or an EEG or an EKG of the non-human intelligence as it's manifesting into our world, right? So now check this out. This interval, this interval, this interval, they're all approximately the same. I can't tell if they're, I don't know, right? But this is like a regular grid pattern. And then here, when we take the golden ratio calipers, and this gets really clear when you see it, right? So purple to green reveals golden ratio to that orange, right? And then we can expand it to that. Oh, wow, right? And then each one, not that one, but on every time this middle one is on an orange pulse, right? This one intersects with another pulse, and that's one of the reasons why, right? It's just fascinating, right? So all of these different colors, all of these regular pulsations, are expressive of several different golden ratios nested together, being shuffled together. And so that's the characteristic pattern here. That shows up here, right, in the NARCAP UAP. And that is absolutely demonstrated, and I'll show you that in a moment, in the ETolemy demonstration, the one of the Monroe Institute. So this is actually so this is a meaningful finding here, because this is symmetry, this is bisection, this is reflection, and this is golden section. At the scale our eyes can see, at the scale our cameras can analyze, capture, at the scale that I can analyze and output here. It's these analysis processes are not difficult. I wanted to show you now that we've gone on this journey, I wanted to show you once again this one chart, because now you can probably recognize what's going on. You can see here in the both the yellow and the red circles this sort of unity pulsation, this regular pulse that forms a grid on which this golden ratio pattern starts weaving together, right? And you can see the intensities of the pulses here, and you can my little baby is doing some pulsing on the door. That's cute. So you can see actually the pulsations, right? You can see this pattern here. Every single dot falls on the intersection of the timeline with one of these red circles. Every single one. Same thing goes, it looks like, with the with these yellow ones. That's what these bars up here are. Not every one falls into play with kind of a regular grid based off of these golden ratios, but it makes sense. So it's sort of this sort of nesting of the golden ratio plus this regular interval sort of gives an expression of this symmetry. So this software displays the pulsation of that Monroe Institute UAP and shows you when it intersects with this experience. The software itself actually counts the ratios. Oh, I should take you into that, which is here. I'm doing everything through Jupyter Notebooks and Python for the analysis, and then React for the data visualizations. So I'm going into the analysis, and I've got step 2, which is clarify signals. And this is where I'm going through all of the different types of signals coming out of here. But I wanted to show you, see, yeah, look at that, huh? This pattern is reminiscent of something, isn't it? This is the Monroe Institute pattern, but doesn't it look a lot like the Cosmic Highway pattern, right? Where is this? So I've clarified this signal. I'm actually wanting to go to the description of the pulses. So I analyzed each of the pulses, and I said, how many of the pulses actually have geometric ratios? Like, how many of the pulses here are set within the intervals that I understood from the ruler and compass construction? And lo and behold, the majority here actually is four geometrically precise ratios. The interval, that like it means it has the golden ratio to that one, golden ratio to the one behind it, and this the unity and half of unity. So those are all the. Then there's the next level has 3, then some have 2, then only about 30 or 35 or so have no geometric relationship to another pulse. But I would suspect actually that is meaningful, and I would explore that further and look at a different scale. And then I suppose that would come out. So I wanted to show that this is actually a demonstration, right? Here, this one chart, the ratios chart count, says, oh yeah, if we've described all the pulses and we've said what relationship they have to the other, if it's geometric, it's going to be primarily having geometric ratios. I assume maybe 1 or 2, but I was shocked to see 4 per the majority. So that brings us to the ETolemy software, which is here, right? So I'll just play this because you might recognize the pulsing of the lights up here. This is another, basically it's a GIF. It's a frame by frame animation, and it takes the flash and shows it on this timeline as a dot, and the size of the dot is correspondent with the brightness. Same thing with these bars. I added these bars to sort of indicate brightness, and you can see how when it pulses, all of the colors it intersects with are geometric relationships, right? So that's really, really fascinating. Even in this spot we went through where there was a little bit of a gap, there is still significant geometric precision in the intervals. So you can get to this data visualization. It's online. You can check that out. You can get to the analysis. I walk through the analysis of how I've done it. I've adapted those in the last 20 hours to look at 2 different UAPs. So I'm going to start putting it all together in another version or release of this software to include these different sources. But it's there right now. You can work with it. Take that method I'm using to analyze UAPs. Let's see, right? Can we recognize the signature? How many of the UAPs pulsate in this, right? This might be a simple test of intelligence because it's the same. It's what we would send to other people to indicate that we are universally like conversant in mathematics, right? This is this type of signal we would. That comes from the Communicating with Extraterrestrial Intelligence book. So we need to do this a lot more. There's probably thousands of videos that have this pulsation in it. I mean, there's probably significant communication within it that is mathematical, geometric. But even if it's just proving out that there is geometry across the board in this phenomena, is worthwhile to do because that designates this phenomena as intelligent and intentional, even if it's covert humans or hoaxes or satellites or actually and truly extraterrestrial beings. My personal feeling is these things we're seeing are conscious in and of themselves, that we're seeing something like their brainwaves made visible. That if we look at this and think about this and work with it, we may have a direct communication with intelligence. This may actually, the intelligence, the non-human intelligence, may actually be what you're seeing in the geometry as expressed in this world, right? It's something like that. I'm not sure if there's someone sitting back on a Morse code button in a flying saucer, or if that thing that actually looks more like an amoeba than a spaceship is sentient in and of itself, which, right? So now let's get to the implications, which, right? Let's get to the implications. Which, if it's true, right? If we're talking about how these UAPs may be expressive of intelligent, intentional communication using the same exact criteria that what we've put forward to guide our own messaging of extraterrestrial intelligence, if they're responding with that, right, that means they're sensitive to us. If they're not broadcasting it all over the place in ways that are aggressive, that means they are sensitive to and respect us. That's really what it means. They're patient, they're intelligent, they appreciate beauty. That's what this says. So the thing is whether or not those blobs of light in the sky are spaceships or intelligent beings in their own right, I don't know. It's hard to tell. We need a lot more data, but we should not be shooting $500,000 missiles at them. We just shouldn't, right? The fact is if any of those UAPs are expressive of this geometry, they are communicating back to us the messages we've sent out, which means we need to listen to what they say and respond back in a polite and appropriate manner, which is likely geometry, right? Right? I can imagine that a flashing light on an aircraft saying, "Hey, I'm here, please give me space," would be a lot more effective than tools of war in communicating with an intelligent, perhaps interstellar species, right? So I just need to say that my dreams and the inspiration of this geometry has been very insistent. I do this work and communicate about this. And 4 days ago, 5 days, 6 days ago, they got really intense. And they said, you have to finish this. You have to finish these demonstrations. And I did. And lo and behold, my brother sent me the first news headline that involved UFOs that didn't necessarily have tongue-in-cheek sort of yuck, and that was about the U.S. shooting down UFOs above Canada, right? And I go, oh, this might actually be a response on the part of these intelligent, sensitive, artistic beings that have capabilities an order of magnitude greater than those missiles or jets, right? They're not going to be hurt by these things. But what might actually be hurt is our rapport with very kind, intelligent, and empathetic beings, right? That's shooting missiles versus responding in kind in a conversation that we're already engaged in, right, is a really different level of communication. And so thank you for your consideration here. I know this has been a kind of big journey to go on. I know it's hard to look at geometry and understand what's going on, but give it some time and you'll actually see in those pulsations meaning that you can no longer deny. You have to then, right, learn the geometry, be sensitive to it, do some analysis yourself, just look at it, and then ask yourself, can this be the result of entities or technologies that are not expressive of beauty, right? If it's pulsating in the golden ratio, right? If it is demonstrating intelligent, intentional communication through technical capabilities that leave us in the Stone Age, right? Then we can deduce they're not harmful, right? This is proof. If we're saying, hey, that light in the sky, it expresses the same geometry that came through a mark on my body that has previously been understood to be an abduction mark, but I don't think so. They do something with the fundamental nature of this reality and our perception of it that is actually non-harmful. It is like being in the room with someone who may be more educated or more practiced than you, but is a good and kind teacher. That's what this geometric communication is all about. Because guess what? We've had these in footage for years, right? For years. I've never seen someone decode these geometries. It was only until they said, from the dream world, they came to me and said, hey, let's work together to make this world a better place. I know you want to do that. That's why we're reaching out to you. Please just listen to what we have to say. And I said, sure, I'll do that. And they said, okay, do some mandalas, do some geometry. Okay, great, you've done that. Now look at these body marks. Now look at these UAPs. And I'm doing that. And then they said, hey, please finish your demonstration of geometry. You have to demonstrate this through a video. It has to be clean. It has to be like a geometric demonstration. And let it go out into the world. Do that today. That's what they said, I don't know, like 3 days ago. So and then this is the verification, and I wanted to share that with you as soon as I got it, because these are 3 images that the Monroe Institute was analyzed by MUFON Canada to be a UAP, right? With a lot of smart people there. The NARCAP 20 incident was documented by commercial airliners and investigated by a team of scientists. And the Cosmic Highway UAP was a response to a well-respected CE5 practitioner who is also receiving these geometries. That is actually a replication. This is an original discovery, right? So I mean, there's a lot more out there. Let's work with it. And so I wanted to share that as soon as I get this, because even if it turns out to be a hoax, wow. Isn't it amazing that this geometry can be analyzed from these blips of light that can be stabilized in these ways or whatever? So I thank you for your consideration. I think it's really important we dive into this at this historic moment, because we're at a crossroads, and there's many paths forward, and I would choose one that is respectful, that's expressive of beauty, awareness of wholeness, and that is kind to everyone involved. So thank you for the kindness of going on this journey of learning about geometries and UAPs. So with that, I wish you well.